The stars had always watched Earth with quiet interest. For thousands of years, the little blue planet spun in its corner of the galaxy, unaware that countless alien eyes studied its every move. The Galactic Union, a collection of 12 powerful species, had long debated what to do with humanity. Some wanted to welcome them. Others wanted to destroy them. In the end, they chose to do nothing at all. Captain stood on the observation deck of the Union station orbiting Mars. He was one of the few humans allowed to work among the aliens. His job was simple. He watched. He reported. He kept his mouth shut. The aliens tolerated humans, but they did not respect them. Humanity was young. Humanity was weak. Humanity was beneath their notice. "You seem troubled," said, stepping beside him. She was a scientist, one of the minds Earth had ever produced. Her work in energy physics had earned her a place on the station, though the aliens rarely listened to her ideas. Pointed toward Earth, the planet hung in the darkness like a blue jewel. "Something feels wrong tonight." Looked at the planet they both called home. 3 billion people lived there, families, children, dreams. All of it existed on that tiny sphere of rock and water. Wrong how? Before could answer, the alarms began to scream. Red lights flashed across every corridor of the station. Alien officers ran past them, shouting in languages did not understand. He grabbed her arm and pulled her toward the observation window. What he saw made his blood turn cold. Earth was glowing. A strange light surrounded the planet. It started soft like morning sun through clouds. Then it grew brighter and brighter. The light pulsed like a heartbeat, each pulse stronger than the last. Had seen many strange things in space. He had watched stars die and black holes swallow light, but he had never seen anything like this. "What is happening?" whispered. The answer came seconds later. Earth folded. There was no other word for it. The planet seemed to bend inward like paper being crumpled by an invisible hand. The light grew so bright that had to shield his eyes. When he looked again, Earth was gone. The space where it had been was empty. No debris, no explosion, just darkness where a world used to be. Fell to her knees, tears ran down her face. No, 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 no. Could not move. His mind refused to accept what his eyes had seen. Earth was gone, his home, his family, everyone he had ever known, gone in the blink of an eye. He wanted to scream, but no sound came from his throat. The aliens on the station moved quickly. Within hours they had scanned the area where Earth had been. They found nothing, no trace of the planet, no sign of where it had gone. The Union's greatest scientists studied the data for days. They came to one conclusion: Earth had been pulled into another dimension. How or why, they could not say. Admiral of the Union called a meeting, and were forced to attend. They sat in a room full of aliens who looked at them with cold eyes. Was a tall creature with gray skin and 4 arms. He spoke in a flat voice that showed no emotion. "Earth is gone," said. "The human species is now extinct. We will remove all records of humanity from our archives. It will be as if they never existed." Rose from his seat, anger burned in his chest. "You cannot do this. There are still humans alive, and I are here. There are colonies on Mars and the outer moons." Looked at him the way someone might look at an insect. "Those colonies hold fewer than 10,000 individuals. They will die within a generation. Humanity is finished. The Union has decided. This matter is closed." Stood beside, her voice was steady though her hands shook. "You never wanted us in your Union. You watched us struggle. You refused to share your technology. And now you erase us like we never mattered." 4 eyes blinked slowly. "You never did matter. That is the truth you refuse to see. Humanity was a minor species on a minor world. The galaxy will not notice your absence." The meeting ended, and were escorted off the station within the hour. They were sent to the Mars colony with orders never to return to Union space. The message was clear. Humanity was over. The aliens had decided their fate. On Mars, watched the stars every night. He refused to believe Earth was truly gone. Something had taken his home, something had pulled it away, and something told him that one day, somehow, Earth would return. Years passed. The small human colony struggled to survive. Without support from the Union, resources grew thin. Children were born who had never seen Earth except in pictures. They grew up hearing stories of blue skies and green forests and oceans that stretched beyond sight. To them, Earth was a legend, a myth, a dream that could never come true. Continued her research in secret. She studied the data from that terrible night. She ran calculations that should have been impossible, and slowly she began to understand what had happened. Earth had not been destroyed. It had been moved. Someone or something had taken the entire planet and hidden it away. The dimensional fold was not natural, told one night. They sat in a small room lit by a single lamp. Outside, the red dust of Mars swirled in the thin wind. Something caused it, something powerful beyond anything the Union has ever seen. Leaned forward. Can we bring Earth back? Shook her head. We do not have the technology, but whoever took Earth might, and if they did it once, they can do it again. Looked out the window at the stars. Somewhere out there, Earth waited. His people waited. And though the galaxy had forgotten them, made a silent promise. He would find a way. He would bring them home, or he would die trying. The Union erased humanity from history that year. They removed every record, every mention, every trace. Within a decade, young aliens grew up never knowing humans had existed. Earth became a ghost story, a tale told to frighten children, the planet that vanished, the species that disappeared. But ghosts have a way of returning, and when they do, the living learn to fear them. Inside the dimensional pocket, Earth floated in a sea of golden light. The sky had no sun, no moon, no stars. Instead, strange energy flowed across the heavens like rivers of fire. The people of Earth woke to find their world changed forever. Panic spread across every city. Governments fell. Millions cried out for answers that no one could give. But humanity did not break. They had faced disaster before. They had survived wars and plagues and the death of hope itself. This was simply another test, and humanity would pass it no matter the cost. Commander Han stood before the United Council of Earth. He was a soldier, born in a small village and raised to serve his people. The weight of leadership had fallen on his shoulders when the old generals died in the chaos of the first days. Now, 10 years after the vanishing, he was the voice that held humanity together. "We cannot go back," Han said. His voice was calm but firm. "The scientists have confirmed it. Whatever brought us here has sealed the way behind us. We are alone in this place." The council members whispered among themselves. Fear showed on their faces, but Han raised his hand and silence returned. Alone does not mean defeated. Look around you. The energy in this dimension is beyond anything we have ever seen. Our engineers have already learned to harvest it. Our crops grow faster. Our machines run longer. This place was meant to be our tomb. We will make it our cradle instead. Engineer stepped forward. She was young, barely 30 years old, but her mind worked faster than anyone Han had ever met. She had been the first to understand the dimensional energy. She had been the first to build machines that could use it. "The energy here responds to thought," explained. "It is not like electricity or fuel. It is alive in some way we do not fully understand, but we are learning. Every day we learn more." Han nodded. "Then we will keep learning, we will grow stronger, and when the time comes, we will find our way home." The years passed like water through fingers. Outside the dimensional pocket, centuries moved forward, but inside, time flowed differently. For every year that passed in the normal universe, only a month passed for Earth. The people did not know this at first. They simply lived. They worked. They dreamed. Discoveries changed everything. The dimensional energy could be shaped by human will. With enough focus, a person could move objects without touching them. They could heal wounds with a thought. They could see things far away as if standing beside them. At first, only a few people showed these abilities. But as generations passed, more and more humans awakened to the power. Commander Han did not live to see the full transformation. He died peacefully at the age of 90, surrounded by his children but his legacy lived on. The military he had built became the guardians of Earth. The unity he had created held strong through every challenge. Lived longer than anyone expected. The dimensional energy seemed to slow her aging. At 150 years old, she still worked in her laboratory, still pushed the boundaries of what humanity could achieve. She trained students who trained their own students. Her knowledge spread across the world like seeds in fertile ground. "We are becoming something new," told her students one day. "Not better than what we were, not worse, simply different. The old humans feared change. We must embrace it." The living starships were her greatest creation. She found a way to grow vessels from organic material infused with dimensional energy. These ships were not machines. They were alive. They thought. They felt. They bonded with their pilots and became extensions of their will. The first ship was small, barely large enough for one person. But within decades, humanity had grown fleets of massive vessels that could carry thousands. New leaders rose to guide humanity. General Bo was a quiet man who spoke only when necessary. But when he spoke, everyone listened. He organized the military into a force that could defend Earth against any threat. Admiral was his opposite, loud and bold, with a laugh that could fill any room. She commanded the starship fleets with joy in her heart and fire in her eyes. Doctor led the scientists who studied the dimensional energy. She was the one who discovered that humans were evolving. Each new generation showed stronger abilities than the last. Children born in the pocket dimension could do things their grandparents had considered impossible. They could communicate without words. They could feel emotions across vast distances. They could bend light and matter with concentration alone. "We are becoming gods," said one night, her voice filled with wonder and fear, or something close to it. Counselor led the government that kept order among the billions of people. She was wise and fair, loved by many and feared by those who broke the law. Under her guidance, crime nearly vanished. People worked together because they wanted to, not because they were forced. "Humanity was always capable of this," often said. "We simply needed the right circumstances to show our true nature." Not everyone welcomed the changes. Some people longed for the old Earth, the old ways, the old limits. They formed communities that rejected the new abilities. They lived simply as their ancestors had lived. The government allowed this. Freedom was sacred, even freedom to refuse evolution. But most humans embraced their new nature. They built cities that floated in the golden sky. They created art that moved and breathed and spoke. They wrote music that listeners could feel in their bones. They raised children who would be stronger than any generation before. 1,500 years passed inside the pocket dimension. Outside, the galaxy aged by tens of thousands of years. The Galactic Union rose and fell and rose again. Species were born and went extinct. Wars were fought and forgotten. And through it all, no one remembered Earth. No one remembered humanity. The erased species stayed erased. Until the day, great-great-granddaughter made a discovery that changed everything. Her name she was a pilot bonded to a starship named Dawn. While exploring the edges of the pocket dimension, she found something impossible. A crack. A thin line of darkness in the golden light, and through that crack she could see stars. Reported her finding to the council. Scientists came to study the crack. They confirmed what everyone hoped. The barrier between dimensions was weakening. The seal that had trapped Earth was finally breaking. "We can go home," announced to the world. "The way is opening." But home had changed. When scouts slipped through the crack and looked at the galaxy beyond, they found a universe that had forgotten them completely. The Galactic Union still existed, though it had grown larger and more powerful. Dozens of species now served under its banner. And humanity was a myth, a legend, a ghost story told to frighten children about the planet that vanished. Admiral stood before the assembled fleets. 10,000 living starships waited in formation, their pilots ready for any command. Behind them, Earth glowed with energy that would have blinded anyone from the old universe. "They erased us," said. "They decided we did not matter. They forgot we ever existed. Now it is time to remind them." The crack in the barrier grew wider every day. Soon, it would be large enough for the fleets to pass through. Soon, humanity would return to the galaxy they had been taken from. And when they did, nothing would ever be the same. The galactic year was 4087 by Union Standard counting. 2,000 years had passed since the strange planet called Earth had vanished from the records. No one alive remembered it. No one cared about the species that had disappeared so long ago. The universe had moved on as it always did. Senator Kell of the species sat in his comfortable office on the Union Capital world. He was old and powerful, with pale blue skin and eyes that had seen 3 centuries of politics. Nothing surprised him anymore. He had watched empires rise and fall. He had survived 7 assassination attempts. He had learned that the galaxy was predictable if you paid attention. The alarm that suddenly screamed through every channel proved him wrong. "What is happening?" Kell demanded, rising from his chair. His assistant rushed in, her 4 arms waving in panic. "Senator, there is something appearing near the Capitol, something massive. The defense grid is activating." Kell moved to his window. The capital world of the Union was a marvel of engineering, covered in silver towers that stretched into the clouds. Orbital stations circled above like protective moons. The defense fleet, 3,000 of the most powerful warships ever built, stood ready to destroy any threat. But what Kell saw made his ancient heart skip a beat. A crack was forming in space itself. It started small, a line of golden light against the black void. Then it grew and grew. Within minutes, the crack was wider than the largest moon. Within an hour, it stretched across the sky like a wound in reality. And through that wound came light. Admiral Wu stood on the bridge of his starship, Heart of Dawn. The vessel was alive around him, its thoughts brushing against his mind like a gentle wind. Wu was not young anymore. He had trained for this moment his entire life. His grandfather had trained before him, and his grandfather before that. 5 generations of his family had waited for this day. "Open communications," Wu commanded. "All frequencies, let them hear us." The message went out across every channel in Union space. It reached every ship, every station, every world. It was simple, it was clear, and it made the entire galaxy freeze in terror. "We remember everything." Senator Kell watched as ships emerged from the Golden Rift. They were not like any vessels he had ever seen. They moved like living things, their hulls shimmering with energy that hurt his eyes. They came in formations so precise they seemed to be one creature with 1,000 bodies. And they kept coming. Hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands. "That is impossible," Kell whispered. "No species has that many ships." His assistant was crying now. "Senator, the defense fleet is engaging." The Union warships opened fire. Plasma cannons that could crack planets released their fury. Missile swarms that numbered in the millions launched toward the invaders. For a moment, space itself seemed to burn with the power of the attack. The enemy ships did not fire back. They did not need to. Kell watched in horror as the plasma beams bent away from their targets, curving through space as if pushed by invisible hands. The missiles exploded harmlessly, their guidance systems going dark. The mighty defense fleet, pride of the Union, found themselves fighting enemies they could not touch. Admiral Wu felt the attacks wash over his fleet like rain on stone. The pilots under his command had trained for this. They knew how to shape the energy around them, how to turn weapons into nothing. It was almost too easy. "Do not destroy them," Wu ordered. "Disable only. We are not here for revenge." The human ships moved forward. Energy fields wrapped around Union vessels, shutting down their systems without harming their crews. Within hours, the entire defense fleet drifted helpless in space. Not a single alien had died, but the message was clear. Humanity could have killed them all. On the planet below, panic spread through the silver towers. Citizens of 100 species ran through the streets, screaming about the end of the world. The government tried to restore order, but how could they? The sky was filled with impossible ships from an impossible place, crewed by an impossible species that should not exist. Senator Kell received a communication request on his personal channel. He accepted it with trembling hands. A human face appeared on his screen. The man was old, with gray hair and calm eyes. "My name is Admiral Wu," the human said. "I speak for the people of Earth. We have returned." Kell found his voice somehow. "Earth was destroyed 2,000 years ago. There are no records." "You erased the records," Wu interrupted. His voice held no anger, only truth. "You declared our species extinct. You forgot us on purpose, but we never forgot you." The rift in space remained open. Through it, Kell could see something that made his blood run cold. A planet. A blue and green world surrounded by rings of light. Earth itself had returned, brought back from whatever dimension had hidden it for two. "What do you want?" Kell asked. Wu smiled. It was not a cruel smile. It was the smile of someone who had waited a very long time for this moment. "We want answers. We want truth. And we want the galaxy to know what really happened 2,000 years ago." The Union Council gathered in emergency session. Representatives from every member species argued and shouted and demanded action. Some called for war. Some called for surrender. Some simply sat in silence, unable to process what was happening. Counselor watched from Earth's command ship. She was the chosen voice of humanity in these negotiations. Her mind could reach across the void, touching the thoughts of billions. She felt the fear of the aliens below. She felt their confusion. And beneath it all, she felt their shame. "They know," said to Admiral Wu. "Deep in their memories, the old ones know what their ancestors did. They remember the betrayal." Wu nodded. "Then we will make them face it." A single human shuttle descended through the atmosphere of the Union capital. It landed in the central plaza, surrounded by soldiers who pointed weapons they knew would be useless. When the door opened, Counselor stepped out alone. She was tall and slender, with dark hair that moved in an unfelt breeze. Energy rippled around her like heat from a fire. The soldiers backed away. Even the bravest among them could feel the power she contained. "Take me to your council," said. "It is time for the truth." The council chamber fell silent when she entered. 100 alien representatives stared at her with fear and wonder. She walked to the center of the room and stood where prisoners once stood to receive judgment. 2,000 years ago, your ancestors made a choice, began. They decided that humanity was not worth saving. When our world vanished, they did not search for us. They did not try to help us. They erased us from history and told themselves we never mattered. She raised her hand. Images appeared in the air around her, pulled from the ancient archives that the Union had buried deep. Documents, recordings, proof of what had been done. "We found these records in the data cores of your oldest stations. Your ancestors knew where Earth went. They had the power to bring us back. They chose not to." The chamber erupted in chaos. Some representatives everything. Others demanded to see the evidence. A few simply wept, overwhelmed by the weight of ancient crimes. Waited for silence to return. "We did not come back for revenge," she said finally. "We could destroy your union in a single day, but that would make us no better than those who abandoned us. We came back because the galaxy needs to remember. History cannot be erased. Truth cannot be buried forever." She looked at each representative in turn. Her eyes held no hatred, only certainty. "Earth has returned. Humanity has returned, and we will never be forgotten again." The news spread across the galaxy like fire through dry grass. Earth had returned. Humanity had returned, and they had brought power beyond imagination. Within days, every species in the Union knew the story. Within weeks, the questions began. Generals stood in the council chamber, facing representatives who now looked at her with something between fear and desperate hope. The chaos of the first meeting had faded. Now came the harder work. Now came the truth. "Show us everything," demanded High Chancellor of the Union. He was the leader of the 12 founding species, a creature of crystal and light who had ruled for 500 years. "If your claims are true, we must see the evidence." Nodded, she reached out with her mind and pulled the ancient records into view. Holograms filled the chamber. Documents appeared in every language. Video recordings played on screens that materialized from thin air. The representatives watched in growing horror. "This is a treaty from the year 2045, explained, pointing to the first document. "Your ancestors signed it with Earth. They promised protection. They promised technology sharing. They promised that humanity would be welcomed into the galactic community." She moved to the next record. "This is a communication from the year 2087, sent hours before Earth vanished. Your scientists detected the dimensional fold forming. They knew what was happening. They had 3 days to warn us. They said nothing." High Chancellor's crystal form flickered. "That cannot be correct. Our records show." "Your records were altered," said calmly. "We found the original files in deep storage on Station 7. Someone went a great trouble to hide them, but nothing stays hidden forever." The hologram shifted to show a recording. An alien face appeared, one that recognized from the historical archives. Admiral, the same creature who had declared humanity extinct 2,000 years ago. "The human problem has been solved," said in the recording. "The dimensional fold removed their planet completely. They will die in whatever void took them. We have decided to erase all records of their existence. Future generations will never know they were here. This is the cleanest solution." Silence filled the chamber. Some representatives could not look at the recording. Others stared with eyes filled with shame. Counselor rose from his seat. He was one of the oldest members of the current council, a creature of flowing water held in humanoid form. "Why would our ancestors do this? Humanity was no threat to us." Turned to face him. "Because they feared what we might become. Your scientists predicted our potential. They saw that humanity evolved faster than any species in recorded history. In 10,000 years, they estimated we would surpass the founding races. Your ancestors decided it was easier to let us die than to compete with us." The documents confirmed her words. Research papers, military assessments, secret meetings where the fate of humanity was discussed and decided. The Union had not simply abandoned Earth. They had watched it vanish and celebrated their good fortune. "You murdered us," General Bow said, his voice echoing through the communication channels. He stood on his flagship above the capital world, surrounded by a fleet that could level planets. "You watched our children disappear and called it a blessing." High Chancellor raised his crystalline hands. "We are not our ancestors. We did not make these choices. Surely you cannot hold us responsible for crimes committed 2,000 years ago." "We do not hold you responsible," replied. "We hold you accountable. There is a difference." The next days were filled with arguments. Some Union representatives demanded that the evidence be. Scientists from both sides worked together, confirming that the documents were genuine. The truth could not be. The Union's founders had committed genocide through inaction. On Earth, the people watched the events unfold through their mental link. Billions of minds touched by billions of emotions. Anger was there, burning hot, but so was something else, something that the aliens could not understand. Admiral Wu addressed the human population in a broadcast that reached every corner of their returned world. "We have proven our case. The galaxy knows what was done to us. Now we must decide what to do next." He paused, letting his words sink in. "Some of you want revenge. You want to make them suffer as we suffered. You want to burn their worlds and scatter their ashes across the void. I understand this feeling. I have felt it myself." His expression grew serious. "But revenge would make us like them. It would prove that they were right to fear us. 2,000 years ago, we were young and weak and afraid. Now we are strong. Strength without wisdom is just another form of weakness." On the Union Capitol, General presented humanity's demands to the Council. They were not what anyone expected. First, all historical records will be restored. The truth about Earth and humanity will be taught in every school, on every world. The species you erased will be remembered. The Council agreed immediately. This was easy to accept. Second, the Union will provide resources to help rebuild the human colonies that survived outside the dimensional pocket. The descendants of those who were left behind deserve justice. This took more debate, but eventually the Council agreed. The Mars colonies and outer settlements had been abandoned for 2,000 years. Their people had struggled and suffered. They deserved help. Third, Earth will take its place in the Galactic Union, not as a junior member, not as a species to be watched and controlled, as equals, full partners in all decisions that affect the galaxy. High Chancellor hesitated. "You ask us to accept a species that could destroy us at will. How can we trust you?" Smiled softly. "You cannot. Trust must be earned over time, but we are patient. We have learned to wait, and we have learned that hatred is a poison that destroys those who drink it." The vote was held. The Union accepted all three demands. What choice did they have? Humanity's fleet still surrounded the capital. Their power was beyond anything the galaxy had ever seen. But more than that, the moral weight of ancient crimes pressed down on every representative. They owed this debt. They knew it. General Bo watched the vote from his flagship. His hands rested on the arms of his command chair. He had been ready for war. He had trained his entire life to fight this battle, and now it was over without a single shot being fired. "Did we win?" his second-in-command asked. Bo thought for a long moment. "We survived. We returned. We made them face the truth, but winning and losing are not so simple anymore." On Earth, celebrations filled the streets. People danced in the golden light that still flowed through their sky. They sang songs that their ancestors had taught them. They wept for those who had not lived to see this day. Admiral Wu stood on a balcony overlooking the capital city. Counselor joined him, her work in the council chamber finally complete. "They will never fully trust us," Wu said. "We frighten them too much." "Yes," agreed. "But fear can become respect. Respect can become cooperation. And cooperation might one day become friendship. It will take centuries, perhaps longer." Wu nodded slowly. "We waited 2,000 years to return. I suppose we can wait a little longer for everything else." The sky above them shimmered with colors that no one in the old universe had ever seen. Earth had returned to the galaxy, but it was no longer the same world that had vanished. Its people were no longer the same species that had been erased from history. The reckoning was complete, the truth was known, and now the real work could begin. 1 year had passed since Earth's return. The galaxy had changed more in that single year than it had in the previous 1,000. Old powers shifted, new alliances formed, and humanity stood at the center of it all, watching with patient eyes. President addressed the Galactic Council for the first time as Earth's official representative. She was not born on Earth. She came from the Mars colonies, the descendants of those who had been left behind when the planet vanished. Her people had survived 2,000 years of hardship without help from anyone. Now she stood among the stars, speaking for all of humanity. "We could have destroyed you," began. Her voice was calm but carried across the vast chamber like thunder. "When our fleets emerged from the dimensional rift, we had the power to end your union in a single day. Every species that had forgotten us could have been reminded in the most terrible way possible. The alien representatives sat in uncomfortable silence. They knew she spoke the truth. But we chose differently. We chose to remember what our ancestors dreamed of, long before they were erased from your history. They dreamed of joining the galactic community. They dreamed of standing beside other species as equals. They dreamed of reaching the stars and finding friends. Smiled, and for a moment her face looked young despite her gray hair. We will not let ancient crimes destroy that dream. We offer you alliance, not conquest, partnership, not domination. The past cannot be changed, but the future is still unwritten. High Chancellor rose to respond. The crystalline being had aged visibly in the past year. The weight of revealed truth had cracked something in his ancient soul. President, the Union accepts your offer of alliance. We know we do not deserve your mercy. We know our ancestors committed crimes that can never be fully forgiven, but we accept this chance to build something better. The treaty was signed that day. Earth became a full member of the Galactic Union with all the rights and responsibilities that came with it. But everyone knew the truth. Humanity was not simply a member of the Union. They were something more, something different, something that the galaxy would have to learn to live with. Admiral Wu retired from military service 3 months after the treaty was signed. He had spent his entire life preparing for a war that never happened. Now he found himself without purpose. He wandered the streets of Earth's capital, watching the people live their lives in peace. General found him sitting by a fountain one evening. The water caught the golden light of the dimensional sky and scattered it in rainbow patterns. "You seem lost," said, sitting beside him. Wu nodded slowly. "I trained for battle. I expected to die fighting for our people. This ending feels strange, too quiet." "There will be other battles," replied. "The galaxy is vast. There are threats beyond the Union's borders, species that prey on the weak, dangers that no one has faced before. Humanity's story is not over. It is just beginning." Wu looked at her with tired eyes. "Do you truly believe that?" "I know it," said. "I can feel the future pressing against the present. Great changes are coming, and when they arrive, humanity will be ready." On the outer edges of Union space, something stirred. The beings that had pulled Earth into the dimensional pocket 2,000 years ago were watching. They had hidden the little blue planet for a reason. They had given humanity time to grow strong for a reason, and now that reason was becoming clear. Darkness moved between the stars. Ancient powers that the Union had never encountered were waking from slumber that lasted millions of years. They had destroyed countless civilizations before the first Union species had learned to walk upright. They were coming again. Doctor detected the first signs from her research station orbiting Earth. Strange energy patterns at the galaxy's edge, signals that matched nothing in any database. She reported her findings to the Council with a troubled heart. "Something is out there," told the assembled leaders. "Something old, something powerful, and it is moving toward Union space." High Chancellor turned pale, his crystal form losing its inner light. "The sleepers. We thought they were legend, stories to frighten children." "Legends often have truth at their core," President replied. She did not seem afraid. She seemed thoughtful. "Tell us about these sleepers." The records were ancient, older than the Union itself. The sleepers were beings from the universe's birth, entities of pure energy that consumed all life they encountered. They had swept through the galaxy in ages past, leaving only empty worlds behind. Then they had gone quiet, vanishing into the void between galaxies. No one knew why they slept. No one knew what would wake them. "They are beyond anything we can fight," said. "Our weapons would be nothing to them. Our fleets would be insects beneath their notice." Energy crackled around her, responding to her emotions. "Perhaps your weapons would be nothing, but we are not limited to weapons." The dimensional energy that humanity had mastered for 2,000 years was not natural to this universe. It came from somewhere else, somewhere deeper, and the sleepers, for all their terrible power, had never encountered anything like it. This is why we were taken, Admiral Wu realized. His retirement suddenly felt very far away. Someone knew the sleepers would wake. Someone gave us the power to face them. President addressed the council one final time before the preparations began. You abandoned us 2,000 years ago because you feared what we might become. You were right to fear us. We have become something beyond your understanding. But we did not become your enemies. We became your guardians. She looked at each representative, human and alien alike. The darkness is coming. It will not care about old grudges or ancient crimes. It will consume everything equally. The only way to survive is to stand together, all of us, united against a threat that cares nothing for our differences. The vote was unanimous. For the first time in history, every species in the galaxy committed to a single cause. Human fleets joined with alien armadas. Human technology merged with Union science. Human strength combined with the resources of 1,000 worlds. General took command of the combined forces. She stood on the bridge of a flagship that was neither fully human nor fully alien, a symbol of the new alliance. Around her, officers of a dozen species worked side by side. We were forgotten once, said as the fleet prepared to face the darkness. We were erased from history and left to die, but we survived. We grew. We returned. And now we will show the universe what humanity can truly do. The stars watched as the greatest fleet ever assembled moved toward the galaxy's edge. The sleepers were waking. Ancient evil was rising from the void, and standing in its path was a species that should not exist, led by power that should not be possible, fighting for a galaxy that had once tried to forget them. Earth had vanished for 2,000 years. Its return had shattered the galactic order, but that was only the beginning. The real story was just starting, and when future generations told the tale of what happened next, they would speak of humanity with wonder. Not as the species that was forgotten, not as the species that returned for revenge, but as the species that saved them all. The gods had come home, and they would never vanish again.